If your goal is to have a good time, then whether it's sensible or not doesn't really matter. Which is why the concept of a roid-raging tiny crossover is harebrained, yet I love it. The Hyundai Kona N is not much more practical than cars like the VW GTI. It also forgoes all-wheel drive, has limited ground clearance, and subpar ride quality. So why even care? Well, under the hood is an obnoxious 4-cylinder boosted into the neighboring town, hooked up to an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic. And that's just part of the Kona N's character. See, having those internals with these proportions is hilarious. The big wheels, brakes, extensive body kit with painted fenders, and little details like the rally-reminiscing third brake light show Hyundai's dedication to insanity. It seems like a passionate garage build, or the result of a Colorado business retreat for the Hyundai boardroom. Either way, I'm here for it, but it is a rare find. They built them for just 2 years, and Hyundai has yet to announce any sort of successor. Still, if you do find one, at the moment, these are going for about 25 to 30 grand, which is an absolute steal. And if you want this one or a variety of other rides, may I recommend Royal South Mazda in Bloomington, Indiana. This small, friendly, and transparent dealership that let me test drive this clean example. Check them out. Even though this is now dated, it still has some nice features like LED headlights and proximity entry. There's also aggressive leather and suede trimmed front seats with a heated function and driver's side lumbar adjustment. Because it was a crossover, they were able to put the seats higher up, which actually helps give me good thigh support, and the seats themselves are well contoured. The wheel comes out far, so at 6'3", I'm comfortable. And they even give you a Harman Kardon sound system, which isn't all that impressive, but it does have a subwoofer and gets to high volumes without distorting as much as most of your entry-level audio systems. And Hyundai hasn't done any Hyundai things with this interior. You got automatic climate control with some dials and buttons, plenty of matte finishes, so it should be pretty easy to keep clean. You have wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and a visually pleasing digital gauge cluster with plenty of fun graphics as you change modes. The Kona N doesn't get caught up in trends as much as other Hyundai products. The infotainment is okay. The user interface has some small icons and text. It's not super easy to use in motion, but the response time is all right, and the tech isn't distracting. And I love how they've tailored it for this trim. There's ways for you to track your times at various racetracks. They really paid attention to the details. And while the materials in here are almost exclusively dark, hard touch plastics, the panel fitment, the build quality, it's not half bad. Even if I wish they added a little bit more of a special touch outside of the seats, shifter, and steering wheel. But hey, for the money, I can't complain. Even though this is a crossover, storage levels, they're just okay. And while the back seat isn't ideal, I can still fit behind myself if I absolutely need to. My knees kind of wrap around the driver, but it's not too bad. And I also have good thigh support back here. I have just enough headroom, so this can be easily used by adults, but they'll have to share a charging port and they will not have rear console vents. The cargo area also won't hold an advantage over something like a Civic Type R, and it is missing a spare tire, but for this kind of performance and footprint, I'm satisfied with the Kona N. 276 horsepower, 289 pound-feet of torque, help this thing rip. Lag is pretty minimal and you get to the power band quickly because of this 8-speed dual clutch. And if you want to make the most out of your powertrain, you can use the N mode, which is its own special mode that gets its own special screen that allows for customization and even a launch mode, which we'll try soon. Oh, and there's also another button down here. What does this one do? Oh my God, make it stop! Jokes aside, Hyundai included an NGS button, which stands for N-Grin Shift. Basically, it's an overboost mode that, according to a dyno, actually adds like 5 to 10 horsepower and kicks the transmission down a couple gears and puts envy in your peers' eyes. It only lasts for 20 seconds, but that's more than enough time if you ask me. And all of this goodness makes it to the ground with a limited slip differential. 0 to 60 in 5 seconds flat for a front-wheel drive car is insane. That is just a quarter second behind my own GR Corolla, and it's even a 1/10 of a second ahead of the Civic Type R to the quarter mile. This exhaust is surprisingly pronounced. In its most aggressive settings, it burbles like a stomach after undercooked chicken. And the throttle response is great. The 8-speed changes ratios with 0 delay. And it tends to pick the right gears. It's pretty smooth from a stop. There's not a bunch of hesitation. Power is again driven to the front wheels, which is most of the time not an issue, but under hard acceleration, you're coming out of a corner. Even if you're not, you can feel it pulling and a little bit of torque steer there. But Hyundai went the extra mile because not only did they give this the powertrain, they gave this the suspension and the steering to make it into a true sports car, or hot hatch, or cuckoo crossover. Call it what you want, but this is barely a Kona anymore. So they've mounted the power assist motor on the rack instead of the column. One less object between your hands and the road, improving your steering feel. The weight builds up nice and naturally. There still isn't like a ton of feedback, but it's very direct. And despite the height, after the initial turn-in, it is still eagerly reacting to your inputs. It weighs just over 3,300 pounds, helping it feel playful and ready to rotate. The center of gravity does mean there's a little body roll. It's not as ready to dance as cars like the new WRX TR or the GR Corolla or even the Elantra N, but it's composed and the grip is great. It doesn't have a huge tendency to understeer. The brakes are firm, but still pretty easy to modulate. Honestly, maybe a little bit more firm than I was expecting, but they're reassuring nonetheless. And when you're done being a complete fool, at 60 miles per hour in 8th gear, you're at just 1,500 RPM. Yeah, there is some road and wind noise, but nothing more than what you get with the usual sticky tire sport compact. You can also tell the exhaust to quiet down too. On a road that has never seen a good day, even in its normal mode with adaptive dampening, you're gonna feel every little crevice and undulation, though it's at least civil over most imperfections, which I think is still an achievement, given that the suspension has to compensate for its relatively high center of gravity. Large potholes can hurt, though I do think passionate car enthusiasts would be able to daily this, even if the roads surrounding them aren't too perfect. And like most other new cars, this comes with lane centering and adaptive cruise control. You'll have blind spot monitoring too. It tested good with the IIHS, so you don't need to feel guilty about putting your kids in it. As for running costs, premium is recommended here if you have access to it, and gas mileage is so-so. At least this powertrain hasn't been a maintenance nightmare so far. The wet clutch DCT was recalled for a bad oil pump that could cause a sudden loss of acceleration. A class action suit is underway, but the transmission seems much better than the old 7-speed dry clutch design. This variant of the 2-liter turbo was first used in the European i30N for 2017, and outside of some high-pressure fuel pump failures, this powertrain has been pretty reliable. Regarding the Kona, there were a fair amount of complaints with the blind spot monitoring system. A few others have had infotainment problems, but owner reviews on cars.com are positive. People had more beef over on Edmunds, but most issues described don't apply to the N. Lastly, this engine is direct injection only, so incorporate a fuel induction cleaner into your maintenance. I might not feel abundantly confident given Hyundai's reputation, but so far the Kona N doesn't scare me when it comes to reliability and running cost. The Hyundai Kona reminds me of why I'm a car enthusiast. On the surface, it would make zero sense for Hyundai to add all of this performance kit to a compact crossover. Compared to its sedan sibling, it's gonna be a worse driver's car. However, if car nerds adore anything beyond the loud noises, feedback, and speed, its originality, and the Kona N has that in droves. Not only is it a cheap Hyundai SUV that's quick, confident, and fun to drive, it also digs into the details with unique features and touches that show its dedication to amusement. While the stiff ride might thwart off crossover buyers, and the decision to make this automatic only limits the appeal to fanatics, I admire the Kona N. If you've been looking for a truly affordable hot hatch, but you want that extra inch of versatility or character, I can't recommend this more. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like to help me take on the maniacal YouTube algorithm. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more fun, detailed car content without fluff. Consider becoming a channel member for an additional podcast, and I'll catch you in the next one.